Hi everyone and welcome back to a new video. I've made a few additions to my VR project and today I want to show you some of them. But first, why is there a rubber duck on my workbench? Who are you?
I'm Duck, Zeta's new talking rubber duck intern. You looked bored staring at Unity last time, so I decided to hop in and help you optimize those AI assets.
How is it possible that you talk?
Well, since you're building a VR factory with local AI and text-to-speech, it's just one of the NPCs we programmed to demonstrate the system in action. So yeah, I'm basically just Zeta's new talking coworker, ready to test if I can actually help optimize those assets.
Okay, apparently I have a new assistant now. So let's continue. In the previous episode, I started building this small VR factory using 3D models generated with AI. We created a basic production line, added different objects, physics, a scoring system, and turned everything into a small playable prototype. But generating a 3D model and dropping it into Unity is actually the easy part. Once you start adding dozens of objects, physics, collisions, interactions, and VR mechanics, you quickly run into another problem: optimization. A great-looking 3D model isn't necessarily a good game asset. It might contain far more polygons than you actually need. Its collisions might be unnecessarily complex. And when you repeat this across dozens or even hundreds of objects, a relatively simple project can become surprisingly heavy. So today, instead of simply generating more models, I want to improve what we've already built. We'll look at polygon counts, automatic optimization, colliders, and then we'll add something completely different to our factory: artificial intelligence. Starting apparently with this duck. Let's begin with the 3D models. When I generate an asset using AI, one of the first things I now consider is where that model is actually going to be used. A highly detailed model can look fantastic when you view it on its own, but inside a game, and especially inside a VR game, we need to think differently. The player might have dozens of these objects around them at the same time. They might be moving, they might have physics, they might need collisions, and all of that has a cost. So instead of always generating the highest level of detail possible, it makes much more sense to create each model according to how it will actually be used. For this project, I'm using Meshy to generate my 3D assets. As we saw in the previous video, I can start from a text description or a reference image and turn it into a complete 3D model. But there's another useful part of this workflow. I can also control the polygon count of the generated model. So if I know that an object is going to be a relatively small prop inside my VR environment, I don't necessarily need an extremely dense mesh. I can start with a lighter version instead. That already gives me a much better starting point before the asset even reaches Unity. And the difference becomes much clearer when we look directly at the geometry. Here we can compare different versions of the same type of asset. More geometry can preserve smaller details, but beyond a certain point, those additional polygons might contribute very little to what the player actually sees, especially when the object is moving, sitting on a conveyor belt, or being viewed from a few meters away. Less polygons, more FPS. Well, that's a slightly simplified explanation, but you get the idea. Once the models have been generated, there's another tool I use when I want more control: Blender. Of course, I can open a model in Blender and optimize it manually. For a single asset, that's perfectly fine, but I definitely don't want to repeat the same process manually for 50 different objects. That's why I also use a simple batch workflow. I can give a script a folder containing multiple 3D models, and Blender can process them automatically. The models can be decimated, processed, and exported again without manually opening every single file. This becomes particularly useful when you're working with large collections of AI-generated assets. I can generate a whole group of objects, process the entire collection automatically, and then import the optimized versions into my project. Of course, we can't just keep reducing geometry forever. If we push the optimization too far, the shape starts to degrade and important details disappear. So the goal isn't to achieve the lowest polygon count possible. The goal is to find a good balance between visual quality and performance. And polygons are only one part of the problem. There's something else that can become surprisingly expensive when we start adding physics to everything: Colliders. When I first started bringing these objects into the VR prototype, the most obvious solution was to use mesh colliders. A mesh collider follows the geometry of the object, so at first it can seem like the perfect solution. And for some objects, it can absolutely be useful. But that doesn't mean every interactive object needs a collider that closely follows its entire mesh. For many objects, we can approximate their physical shape using much simpler geometry. A box collider, a sphere collider, a capsule collider, or several simple colliders combined together. Take this object, for example. Instead of asking the physics engine to work with its complete geometry, I can represent its important physical areas using just a few primitive colliders. The visual model doesn't change at all. The player still sees exactly the same object, and in many situations, the physical interaction feels almost identical. But underneath, the physics system has something much simpler to calculate. This becomes particularly important in VR because these aren't just static decorations. I want to grab them, move them, throw them, drop them, put them on conveyor belts, and potentially have many of them interacting at the same time. So now we have lighter models and simpler physics, but I wanted to try something else. Until now, everything inside this factory has behaved according to traditional game logic. An object reaches a trigger, a script checks what it is, the score changes, the conveyor changes speed, all normal game mechanics. But what happens if one of the objects can actually understand us? That's where my little coworker comes back. I've been experimenting with connecting my local AI system directly to Unity. And instead of creating a completely separate demonstration, I decided to integrate it into this project. The idea is actually quite simple from the player's perspective. If I'm close enough to an AI-enabled NPC, I can simply talk to it. No text box, no keyboard. I speak normally, and the NPC answers using its own voice. Behind the scenes, however, several different systems are working together. My voice is captured and converted into text. That text is sent from Unity to my local AI system. I'm currently experimenting with Qwen models, including Qwen 3.5 and 3.6. The language model receives not only what I've just said, but also the context associated with that particular NPC. That means different characters can have different roles, different instructions, different personalities, and potentially different knowledge. The system can also use conversation memory, so the NPC doesn't necessarily forget everything after each interaction. And I can connect it to a RAG system, allowing a character to retrieve information from its own knowledge base when necessary. Once the model has generated the answer, the text is converted back into speech and played directly from the NPC inside Unity. So from the player's perspective, I walk up to this little duck, I talk to it, and it talks back. What's interesting to me isn't just the conversation itself, it's what this could eventually become. An NPC could know where it is. It could understand its role in the game. It could remember something the player told it earlier. It could have access to information that another character doesn't have. And eventually, the AI doesn't necessarily have to stop at dialogue. It could become another layer interacting with traditional game systems. For now, however, I'm intentionally keeping this implementation relatively simple. The AI framework I'm using is something I've been developing separately, and the connection between Unity, local language models, memory, RAG, speech recognition, and voice generation deserves its own dedicated video. Today, I mainly wanted to see whether all these different systems could coexist inside an actual playable prototype. And they can. At this point, our little factory is becoming much more interesting than the original experiment. We have AI-generated 3D assets. We can control their complexity before importing them. We can further optimize large collections automatically with Blender. We can replace unnecessarily complex collision geometry with lightweight physical representations. We can use those objects normally inside a VR environment. And now we can even turn some of them into interactive AI-powered characters. This is the part of AI-assisted development that interests me the most. Not simply pressing a button and generating something, but connecting different tools together and building a workflow around them. The 3D generator doesn't need to build the game. The language model doesn't need to replace the gameplay code. and Unity doesn't need to generate the assets. Each tool solves a different part of the problem. For the 3D side of this experiment, Meshy has been useful because I can quickly move from an idea or reference image to an actual model, while still having control over things like geometry and polygon count. And there are other areas we haven't really explored yet. Characters are one of them. Meshy can also be used to create characters and work with animations, which opens up a completely different set of possibilities once those assets are brought into Unity. And that's something I'd like to explore next. Instead of giving intelligence to a rubber duck, we'll create proper characters, work with animations, and see how far we can take the combination of AI-generated assets, traditional game development, and intelligent NPCs. If you want to experiment with Meshy yourself, you'll find the link in the description. And if you want to see how this project evolves, subscribe to the channel because there's still a lot I want to add to this little VR world. See you in the next video.
Bye-bye.